There's never a dull moment when it comes to Minnesota sports. Whether it's positive or negative.
The Yankees have swept the Twins.
Minnesota Sports Chat has you covered. Talking nothing but Minnesota sports all year long. It's time now for the soon-to-be award-winning, if only in his own mind, Minnesota Sports Chat with your host, Ross Brendel.
Well, that would be me, and this would be edition number 235 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat, presented by Beans Coffee Company. Use the promo code SportsChat and save at checkout. This is the Minnesota Golden Gophers review and preview show. We'll review the Gophers' 48-23 win over Maryland, and we'll look ahead to what has a chance to be a real fun game between 5-3 Minnesota and 6-2 24th ranked Illinois on Saturday morning in Champaign, Illinois. Kickoff at 11 a.m. on FS1. As always, for the review and preview show, we welcome in Mr. Daniel House from Gophers Guru, gophersguru.com, and at Daniel House MN. On the artist formerly known as Twitter, now X, it is Mr. Daniel House. Daniel, happy Tuesday to you as we record this review and preview edition.
Happy Tuesday. Another college football week. This slate looks even more impressive than last week's, in the Big Ten especially. I'm kind of jacked for it.
And we will get to a whip around the Big Ten as this podcast draws near its conclusion. But for now, let's start reviewing what went down at Huntington Bank Stadium this past Saturday. As mentioned, a big Gophers win by a final score of 48-23.
Third down and 6. Coming off a 3-and-out. That is picked off. Headed the other way. Justin Wally with a pick 6. Brosmer protected, and there's Jackson underneath for another Gophers touchdown.
See if they can sort out this little cluster formation. Somebody should come open. Nice.
Brosmer looking for a shot. Wide open man. Spencer. Touchdown for the Gophers, who just keep on rolling on homecoming.
Nice little row the boat celebration from Max Brosmer after one of his touchdowns. I believe it was the second touchdown pass to make it 14-0 Minnesota. Max Brosmer, all he does is go 26 for 33, 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. Darius Taylor, Daniel House, had 15 carries for 81 yards, but 14 of those carries didn't amount for much. It was one of those 15 carries that went for 51 yards and a touchdown. Maryland with 2 turnovers, that pick 6 by Justin Wally, and another interception for Coy Parrish, a.k.a. I was made aware of this watching back the highlights. We call him Coy Wonder. How does he feel about Coy Wonder, Daniel House? Any idea?
I don't know. I don't even hear about that. I guess I'm not up on the social media well enough that I didn't even know about that.
I kind of like it. I get it. It's a play on Boy Wonder with the name Coy. I can deal with that. Your thoughts after a 48-23 dominating victory? I didn't know what to make of the game, Daniel. As always, there's a chance whenever you play, you can lose. I felt like the Gophers should win, but I thought it was going to be a close and entertaining game. Nice to see the boys do what we so seldomly see them do, and that is handle a Big Ten opponent very easy. The game was basically never in doubt this past Saturday.
Yeah, I thought they played their best game of the season from start to finish, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Really good mix of passing game designs. I thought they did a nice job of setting up leverage for their pass catchers. You look at that one red zone touchdown by Daniel Jackson early in the game, being able to motion him in, get him set up, and then, have the pick from Elijah Spencer to open up the route. They did some cool stuff in the red zone, low red zone area with mesh concepts. Brosmer just is playing incredible. Like he's so dialed in right now. Accurate, efficient, great ball placement, seeing the field, making good decisions, throwing with good mechanics, like everything that you want in the quarterback to run this type of system is being executed at a very high level. And, you look at what Minnesota's doing offensively. using the quick game, the screens as an extension of the rushing attack, dashing in the run game, but really doing a good job of being able to create space in the passing game, exploiting Maryland. Glendon Miller didn't play nickel corner. They had another DB ejected for targeting early in the game. The best pass rusher, Kellen Wyatt, didn't play. So Minnesota was really able to take advantage of a lot of the personnel absences that Maryland had and put together a really solid scheme that fit the strengths of the personnel they got. I thought Daniel Jackson played one of his best games he's played overall, start to finish, route running, catching the football, just every little detail of his game was on point. That was really an impressive performance. Defensively, I thought they did a good job of tying the rush and the coverage together, pin in the pocket, eliminating that second play that Billy Edwards is really good at. Didn't let Maryland find that groove in the quick game. So I thought it was a really good performance.
We'll get to more in-depth Illinois preview here in just moments, but one thing that Maryland did really well that I think Illinois will also have a chance to do is those outside rushers, especially the defensive end, Daniel House. In the run game, they lived in the Gophers' backfield all day long, other than that one big Darius Taylor touchdown run. What did they do so effectively to thwart the Gophers' run game? Because I got to believe, even though we love watching Max Brosmer throw the ball all around the field, when it comes to Illinois, the Gophers are going to have to run the ball pretty consistently to be able to win that game. So what did Maryland do that maybe Illinois will attempt to copy?
I just think Maryland's got a really good front. I mean, they're top 30 rush defense EPA per play. So coming in the game, you knew that they were pretty efficient in that category, just how they play schematically, what they do in their front. The box counts that Minnesota had at its disposal, it was conducive to them being able to throw the football. So it was one of those situations where taking what the defense gives you, if you're not as efficient in the run game, pivot to what works, use that quick game and screen stuff as an extension of the rushing attack, be able to stretch it at all three levels. I just thought that the mix of designs that they had was really good for the coverage types that they were getting. And I'll have a huge breakdown on the site about what they were able to do schematically to kind of cause some problems for Maryland. This is the week they should be able to run the ball, Ross. You look at Illinois, what they're doing in the run defense side of things, very inefficient against the run. A team that Minnesota should be able to get on the perimeter and do some stuff. Fifth worst rush defense success rate in college football right now. And I see some stuff that they could do schematically potentially that allows them to run the football efficiently in this game.
A couple times this year, Minnesota, specifically Iowa, and then the Maryland game just a few days ago, they've come out with a pass-first mentality. And I know the head football coach has talked about numerous times there's multiple ways to win a game. I think we all know that. But is it still surprising to you, Daniel, when this offense comes out and when you throw out basically everything past 2019 and their run to the Outback Bowl victory, it just seems like you're really breaking course from what you want to do when you come out in that pass-first mentality, which, by the way, I love. I'm not saying don't do it. I was just genuinely surprised by it where it was just pass, 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 pass. So obviously that is something you see in film where you think you can exploit that. And I think it's a credit to the wide receivers that they're now getting to that point where I think the coaching staff feels comfortable with that. But did that game plan surprise you at all? Or is that what you thought they should do to obtain victory?
Yeah, I thought that's what they should do, especially based on personnel that Maryland had available in its back end. I thought that was something that was exploited. This was a game you weren't going to be able to really run the ball super efficiently because they're very good in the interior of their D-line. They're good at getting off of blocks, generating knockback in the run game. So when you look at the concepts or the coverage structures that they had back there, they were blending between zone and man concepts, and they were able to just turn the dials really well with versatile route concepts using motion, varying formations. The receivers executed really well, running good routes, catching the ball. The fundamentals of the receivers were the tightest they've been in a while. Just from a consistency standpoint, you saw flashes of it, but that was the most complete game that entire unit is put together. And they even involved the tight ends. Gears had a couple catches. Callarp had a couple catches. That's the thing that I notice about this offense is it's different in terms of like trying to get every position involved in the pass game, where it's tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, being creative with what they're doing schematically and having a purpose behind it, where there's like some things that they maybe did earlier in the year, they tweak them slightly in a game, in an upcoming game, to make the defense kind of anticipate what's coming, or even doing that over the course of the game. I thought those wheels that they were running in the route concepts was something they were trying to hit on. They had that screen and go. They tried to drill down in the red zone and it was covered, but then, they were able to come back later, motion into the bunch and hit the wheel deep. And the DB wasn't able to get his hands on the front of that bunch, and bang, here you go. You got a big play because you got traffic getting caught up in the Maryland defensive backfield. So just really good stuff on offense.
Walk us through the Wally interception. When you watch it back, he breaks on the ball early. Is that more of a bad throw or a great defensive play? Because he knew the play. He jumped the route, but is that reading it off of the quarterback and understanding the coverage, or is that just a really poor throw that shouldn't happen, or a mixture of both?
It was a miscommunication, not the right route design. Being able to just see that, he's going to throw that ball, release and drive on it and make the play. I mean, that's the thing that Maryland faced there, is getting down 21 zip, like at the snap of a finger. And then all of a sudden you're in a negative game script. You got to change some things and alter what you're doing from a play calling standpoint. That's a team that really likes to throw the ball out on the perimeter, create yards after the catch, test your tackling ability in space. And Minnesota had a good scheme where they were able to really play with precise zone drops, mix in some other coverages, but really roll the coverage and do some things that gave them a lot of trouble, being able to keep the offensive players in front of you with the zone coverage that they were able to play. Having eyes on the quarterback, having eyes on the screens and perimeter quick game stuff, not biting on double moves downfield. But I thought the X factor was the ability to compress the pocket. The edges were pinned. That one interception by Coy was directly a result of Anthony Smith being able to knock the guard right back into the quarterback, and he made the play. So that was really working really well together, rush and coverage. That's what's really good defenses doing. And that's been kind of the hallmark of Minnesota's defense this year.
Wally had eyes on the ball. Those watching on the YouTube machine at times have eyes on my hydro flask filled with my Beans Coffee Company coffee. A reminder, please thank Beans Coffee Company. They've been supporting Minnesota Sports Chat for over 2 years now. I'm just asking you to go to their website. I've done this for about a month or two now. Just go to their website, coffeebybeans.com. That's coffeebybeans.com. If you're a coffee drinker, you're going to see something that piques your interest. I know you'll try it. Once you try it, I know you will like it. It is small batch roasted coffee in Mankato, Minnesota by sports fans who cheer for the same teams that we do. Check them out, coffeebybeans.com. Use the promo code SPORTSCHAT. That is SPORTSCHAT. You'll save some cash at checkout. Coffee by Beans, Beans Coffee Company. They ship anywhere. All items for free, $35 or more. That is coffeebybeans.com. Promo code SPORTSCHAT. The head football coach was maybe, I don't want to say baited, it wasn't the right word, but asked about what it would mean to get his first win over Bret Bielema. And Bret Bielema has quite the winning streak over the University of Minnesota when it goes back to Wisconsin. And now Illinois, PJ Flack, he wasn't having much of that question.
This is going to bore you. I mean, 1-0. That's all we're worried about, 1-0. It is. I have a lot of respect for Coach Bielema and what he does. He always has a hard, smash-mouth, tough football team, no matter where he was, Wisconsin, Arkansas, Illinois. It's his DNA. We got to play our best football. We're playing a ranked opponent on the road. We got a DIB, man. Do it better.
As much as I agree with that entire response, he does want to beat Bret Bielema, right? I mean, you can play that off as much as you want. You want to get a victory over Bielema at some point.
We're all about DIB at Minnesota Sports Chat, man. We do better here.
We do it better here. We absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that everybody is going to have that mindset going into the game. But I mean, this is This is a fun matchup, Ross. I'm excited about the potential of this game. It's going to be one of those ones that comes down to who plays with tighter details and doesn't make the mistakes, because stylistically, there are some things that both teams do well that, strength on strength type of matchups. Illinois passing attack versus Minnesota's pass defense is going to be interesting. And then Minnesota, can they run the ball against a team that hasn't been able to defend the run very well?
So Illinois comes in at 6-2. They're coming off of a loss to Oregon by a final of 38-9. Their only other loss was another road test at Penn State by a final of 21-7. They're undefeated at home this season. I don't think there's any shame in losing to Penn State and Oregon. I think Illinois would love to have had both those wins, at least one of them, but there's no shame in losing to those two opponents. Luke Altmaier having a great season, completing just over 63% of his passes. He has 15 touchdown passes to just 3 interceptions, something to keep in mind when it comes to that fairly stout Gopher secondary when it comes to Saturday, what they can do to limit the passing game. Daniel, my favorite part of the week has become when you guess what the ESPN matchup predictor, for whatever it's worth, says about the game. Do you want to take a stab at what the ESPN matchup predictor says about Gophers and Illinois on Saturday?
I'm going to say Minnesota 53%.
Wow. Are you sure you don't write the matchup predictor stuff?
No, I don't. I don't. No.
They're giving Minnesota a 54.3% chance to get to 6-3 with a win.
All right. ESPN matchup.
Okay, so let's say that happens. How are the Gophers going to do that, Daniel? I think we've alluded to it a little bit as to what they'll try and do. But if the Gophers are to go to Illinois and win on Saturday, it's a game I'm actually starting to lean towards. I think the Gophers will win it. I don't know how. It feels like things are good right now, which is kind of always a bad sign as a Minnesota sports fan. But PJ Fleck teams always tend to be better in November than they are at most points of the season. That hasn't always happened, but I encourage you to look at the schedule since he's been here. They're generally a lot better in November than they are at the beginning of the year. I feel like the Gophers can win this game. I actually think they will, but if they do, how have they done it?
Running the football effectively against an Illinois run defense that struggled. Minnesota's offense can really exploit Illinois' early down defense just in general from a tendency standpoint. Illinois' passing attack has been really solid. Pat Bryant's a good wideout. Franklin as well is someone who's been able to put stress on defenses underneath and at all 3 levels. The biggest factor that I think is going to make a huge difference in this game is whether Minnesota can pin the pocket. Luke Altmaier is really good extending with his legs. He leads the Big Ten in scrambling, being able to step up, extend plays, get to that second play. Minnesota's going to have to compress the edges, get good interior push. I thought Minnesota did a really good job getting their hands on the football, getting their hands up when they couldn't get the rush there, knocking balls down, deflecting. It's going to be a big factor again. I think they'll have a lot of quarterback run game stuff for Luke Altmaier, so being very good with eye discipline is something that Minnesota is going to have to do well. So I think running the football in this game, Minnesota fans have become here accustomed to really how well Minnesota's throwing it. And I'm not saying that they won't throw it at a good chunk, but I think you'll see them maybe run the ball a little bit more efficiently than they have, emphasize it more, and have a creative scheme that really attacks the perimeter, which is something that they've struggled with. Getting their defensive backs actively involved in run defending and attacking them is something that I think Minnesota will do throughout this game.
Is Altmaier more likely to beat you with his arm or with his legs? I actually lean legs. I think where his plays really excel is when he breaks containment and can find receivers on the run. I think if the Gophers, to your point, can pin the pocket, keep him in the pocket, they'll have a good chance at slowing down the Illinois offense to a point where the Gophers offense then in return can score enough to win the game.
Well, you look at games they've played against Altmaier. Altmaier's been able to make that scramble. It's 3rd and 11, and, he's able to step out and, get 12 yards and pick up a first down. Like those type of things, or just extend long enough to be able to hit a playmaker downfield. So that's the biggest factor I'm looking at. Being able to maybe create a turnover. Altmaier has some ball security issues. You can probably get a strip coming off the corner or, punch at the football. Ball security is something I'm watching. He's been a lot better at eliminating those like just catastrophic interceptions where it's like, dude, just throw the ball away, go down, take the sack. He's been much more aware this year. So that's helped Illinois. Their defense has been really propped up by takeaways. This is a team that really thrives off those. You're going to see, a lot of man coverage with their, 5-man front, bear tight front type of defense, and then, a lot of man coverage. But they're going to have presentations where they're bluffing out into Tampa 2, cover 2. It's hard to sometimes get a beat on if it's man free or cover 3. They'll have zone droppers just, dropping into windows where you're going to have to ID it. But I think that's where Brosmer's intelligence and processing is going to be really key.
I think what you just said about the Illinois defense is why I'm confident that the Gophers can win on Saturday. I'll always give a team a turnover, especially if you can create one yourself and stay even on the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like if the Gophers turn the ball over once or less, they will have a really good chance at winning this football game for what you said. You can move the ball on Illinois. You just don't want to turn the ball over to them because they create a lot of turnovers. If the Gophers don't turn the ball over, Daniel, I don't think they're going to be a lot of 3-and-out punt, stalled drives, punt. I just like their chances if they don't turn the ball over. And the way Brosmer's playing right now, I don't think that will be a ton of an issue. It's on the backs to hold on to the ball as well. But I like a lot about this matchup, even though Bielema has had a great track record against the Gophers.
Well, yeah, and they've been better last week, from a pre-snap penalty standpoint. Those back-breaking penalties that they were having earlier in the year, they've definitely cleaned up those things, and that's helped them a lot as well. So I think, playing a clean football game is always a necessity, especially when you're going on the road against a team like Illinois and Bret Bielema that is going to be prepared for this game. They've got some injuries in their secondary that are worth monitoring, a few dings here and there, guys that have been in and out. I don't know what the availability is going to be like. It sounds like Bret Bielema was I watched his press conference. He really wasn't given too much insight. He said he thought a lot of them would be able to go. Tyler Strain was maybe the one that wasn't able to play maybe at the highest level of certainty. But Minnesota could be able to, if they're dinged up in that secondary, be able to really go at them in the passing game as well. So, if you can have the ability to run and pass and do some things conceptually that kind of marry the run and pass together, I think you're going to be in good shape for this game.
Quick look around the Big Ten besides Minnesota at Illinois at 11 a.m. We have our big noon Saturday, Ohio State at Penn State. That is a 4-3 matchup. Northwestern takes on Purdue in the game of the week in the Big Ten. Oregon at Michigan, Indiana at Michigan State, UCLA at Nebraska, Wisconsin at Iowa, USC at Washington. You alluded to it in the outset, Daniel, or maybe it was before I hit record. A lot of intriguing matchups this weekend. I think the two that I want to focus on, maybe three, Wisconsin and Iowa, Ohio State at Penn State, and Indiana at Michigan State. I think Indiana might want to be on upset alert this upcoming Saturday in East Lansing. What jumps out to you on the Big Ten schedule?
Obviously, want to see the Penn State-Ohio State game. We'll see if Drew Aller's able to play. Privola came in and did a really good job against Wisconsin, executed well, has that quarterback run element, super dynamic with the ball in his hands. How fun is it to watch Tyler Warren? That guy is so versatile, does so much for them. You got him in the Wildcat, you got him snapping the football and running a route. Like Kotelnicki's offense has just got so many unique wrinkles in it. So I want to see, what does he have dialed up for Jim Knowles and the Buckeyes defense? Are there some things that they can do to really mess with them from an eye discipline standpoint? And it's Will Howard with Ohio State for me. He's playing at a really high level just from like play action standpoint. You look at his evolution as a play action passer at Kansas State was something that he wasn't very good at early in his career. And then every year he got better. And you looked at how he's going to translate with what Chip Kelly does in the run game. He's been very, very good as a play action passer. So I want to see that element, along with how Ohio State's able to run the football. With Judkins and Henderson back there, they got two really good complementary styles. What are the game plans for both of these teams? It'll be a very good matchup. I wish it wasn't on at the same time the Gophers game was. But, Michigan State, Indiana, I'm intrigued by that as well, going on the road. Michigan State's been running the ball better. The biggest issue is Aiden Childs. He just makes that back-breaking mistake. And when he hasn't made that back-breaking mistake, they've been in every football game they played. I thought they had a chance again against Michigan, and, they just couldn't execute completely. They missed a short field goal. They couldn't punch the ball into the end zone in a couple of spots. If they can execute, it should be a pretty entertaining game. And then Wisconsin, Iowa, at Iowa, Kinnick, night game. Wisconsin's kind of been the Jekyll and Hyde here, where it's like, what are you going to get each week? Their defense played really well in the first half against Penn State. Then, Penn State was able to find some stuff in the run game. So I just want to see what type of performance you get from Wisconsin and Iowa. They both kind of been up and all over the map this season. So which team maybe plays a little bit better in the run game? I think both offensive lines are top 5 units in the Big Ten right now. So this should be a classic ground and pound type of Big Ten game.
On Indiana, Daniel, they have to finish the job, and they might not. Their schedule, they'll be tested a little bit the back half of the year. They have 4 games left. They're at Michigan State, at home against Michigan, at Ohio State, at home against Purdue. So at worst, that looks like 9-3 to me. It looks more like 10-2, 11-1. I don't necessarily know how much I love the expanded college football playoff. I think this year it's been perfect because I think it's more wide open than normal. But this alone should show teams like the University of Minnesota, and we've talked about this before, in 2019, the Gophers would have been in that college football playoff or close to it if it was 12 teams at that point. If that's the gold standard of what is now a successful season outside of winning a national championship, Indiana has proven to teams like Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, and other teams all across the country in Power 5 conferences, or now Power 4, it can be done. Minnesota can play in that college football playoff, and you have to look no further than Indiana, who right now, Daniel, as we sit, again, per ESPN, for whatever it's worth, a 69% chance to make the college football playoff as we sit here today. If they finish 3-4 with their only loss to Ohio State, they will be in the college football playoff. That is a credit to Indiana, but should also serve notice to teams like Minnesota. You can compete in this new era of college football.
Unique roster building. When you have a new coach coming from James Madison, able to bring a lot of players with him, staffing continuity, something that Cignetti values. I mean, he's not a super highly paid coach, but his mindset is, to be able to spread that money around to his assistants, to have a good support staff around him. And I think the coaches that have that mindset, they're very smart, because you're only as good as the people around you. And if you're still well compensated and everybody is in a good environment, you're going to have a lot of success. And that's one of the reasons why I believe they've been successful, is because Cignetti's really created a culture of continuity, really tough mindset, focused every single week, well prepared. They got a system in how they do things. They win everywhere they've been, even early on. And they built a roster full of productive players, not just from James Madison, but other ads as well that have made a huge impact, even including Curtis Rourke, who missed last week, but Taven Jackson played well at quarterback too. So it just shows you they got very good systems. They are good fundamental football coaches. They got good schemes. And I think that matters more than ever right now, when the margins between the teams are a lot thinner than they've been, because the talent is distributed out and you can't hoard talent. It comes down to coaching now, in-game coaching, scheming, elevating your team, and getting the most out of them, being able to connect them. And Indiana's done a great job of that.
And if you're not familiar with Kirk Cignetti, you can Google him. You can also Google Daniel House, and that will bring you to either gophersguru.com or Daniel House on the Daniel House MN on the X machine. Daniel, you alluded to one piece on the site, but what else is there?
There'll be multiple breakdowns on the game coming out, recapping what Minnesota was able to do versus Maryland, and then preview the Illinois game. Should be a fun matchup on Saturday. Really looking forward to it.
Row the boat, Sky Umago, Daniel House.
Thanks for having me. Good show today.
That is Daniel House from gophersguru.com. Again, Daniel House MN on the X machine. I am at the Ross Brendel on that same X machine. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment, even hate comment me. I'm okay with that. I'm a big boy. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please make sure you rate and review no matter how you are listening to Minnesota Sports Chat or watching. Please tell your friends and family it is still the best way to grow this little venture of mine. For Daniel House, I am Ross Brendel saying thank you so much for listening. I'm back again in this feed real soon. Gophers in Illinois, Saturday, 11 a.m. on Fox Sports 1.
Thanks for listening to Minnesota Sports Chat, presented by Beans Coffee Company. Use the promo code SPORTSCHAT. That's one word, Sports Chat, to save at checkout. Follow Ross on X at the Ross Brendel. Like and subscribe to Minnesota Sports Chat wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review kindly.